So, folks, we are getting a glimpse of the future. A riot, well, I don't quite know whether to call it a riot or not because the mainstream press is calling it a riot, and I don't trust a single word they said. I checked out the window after reading the weather report that there were riots outside a hotel housing asylum seekers in Liverpool, or near Liverpool. Now, this is, according to the mainstream press, just the most awful, awful, awful thing that could possibly happen. These poor, poor refugees running for their lives from nobody knows where or how. The details are of them running for their lives, but they are apparently running for their lives. And if you don't believe it, you're a Nazi. And these are being these economic, opportunistic, law-breaking immigrants, which is what they really are, not asylum seekers or refugees. Let's be very clear about that one. These opportunistic, economic, law-breaking immigrants are being housed on the taxpayer's pound while the rest of us are struggling to get by, are being housed in a hotel, several hotels, but this one just outside Liverpool. And there was a protest there. And from what I read, that protest was sparked by attempts by some of these opportunistic, law-breaking, economic immigrants, propositioning young girls or a young girl, but it won't be just the one, believe me. And it won't stop at propositioning either, I can promise you that. Somewhere in the area. So this sparked a protest, which led to some disquiet. Now, the press, as you would expect, are calling everyone who protested far-right, neo-Nazis, racists, and fascists. Now, someone, this is the press, this is the mainstream press, and none of them, between them, have a dictionary, clearly. I mean, you can Google the meaning of a word. You can't just Google anymore. You can't just Google either, but none of them have a dictionary. None of them know what fascist means. It's the simple stuff. Just look it up. Have an encyclopedia around and see. Fascist is not defined as person who objects to mass illegal immigration into a country. Not defined as that. It's not defined either as person who objects to money, their taxpayers' pound, being spent to house illegal immigrants in their country. That's not the definition of a fascist either, so be clear. So I wish these journalists would get themselves an encyclopedia and study the meaning of the words they throw about. But of course they won't, because they're not telling a story, they're pushing an agenda. So everyone is far right, everyone is a fascist. And it was startling. Mainstream news like ITV News going to the scene and interviewing only one side. So they interview someone sympathetic to the economic, opportunistic, law-breaking immigrants, and then someone else, some lefty, softy idiot. But nobody, no protester. Nobody was asked why they were there protesting. This is supposed to be journalism. It's supposed to be the news. This is absolutely insane. I've seen some left-wing bedwetters blaming it all on Suella Braverman. It's her fault. Her rhetoric has caused this. And so basically what they're saying is that the Home Secretary should not be able to comment on this situation unless it is to offer unwavering support. This is just for the situation to continue. This is despite the fact that the Home Secretary is supposed to act in the interests of security for this country. One of the roles of the Home Secretary is to keep this country secure. Now, you would expect, given that with thousands of people coming in, and regularly, a couple of thousand already this year, we're in early February, thousands of people coming, you would think that people we don't know where they're from, don't know what their intentions are. You would think this would be in the remit of the Home Secretary. It is in the remit of the Home Secretary, but she's not allowed to comment on it unless it is to say, this is great, let's have more of it. That's all the Home Secretary is allowed to say about this clear threat, short and long-term threat to the well-being of this country. So it's Suella Braverman's fault. I saw some socialist moron call Suella Braverman and Rishi Sunak neo-Nazis. Anyone? I really don't know what well, of course nobody, we need the encyclopedia again. Let's get that encyclopedia back in. We need to look up Nazism. I sincerely don't, I sincerely believe, or at least would guess or estimate, that neither Rishi Sunak nor Suella Braverman would have been activists in the Nazi movement. I'll be honest with you, I really don't think they would have been. But the glaring hypocrisy on all of this, and there's no avoiding it. Black Lives Matter can riot, tear down statues, set fires, destroy property, destroy livelihoods, both here and in the rest of the English-speaking world, Australia, the United States, Canada, and crickets, in terms of condemnation or criticism for their violent behaviour. Nothing. They are righteous, righteous, right-on folk fighting a just cause because they're fighting against Western civilization, and the press is anti-Western civilization. Simple. And that's why they do and say nothing but support for Black Lives Matter mobs, doing far, far worse than anyone did at that Liverpool riot. The press is of course sympathising with I read one article as well saying that these law-breaking opportunistic immigrants are afraid to leave the hotel now. They're afraid to, I kid you not, they're afraid to go to the library or to the church. This is the world that these lefties live in. They are so completely deluded. It's terrifying and mind-blowing in equal measure. They're afraid to leave the hotel. Poor souls. Look, you know who's really afraid and who will be afraid as time goes on? Young girls, schoolgirls. And there is a report as well this morning of so-called youth, so-called child migrants put into a school in Kent. Nobody knows what age they actually are. Put into a school in Kent. And wouldn't you be shocked? You wouldn't believe you won't believe what happened. They raped one of the girls in the school. Shocking. No one could have seen it coming. It's not as if we haven't had gangs roaming the country, gang raping schoolgirls for decades. No, or here, or in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Germany, there was just no sign that this would happen. I don't know. I mean, I know we're living in an upside down world, and I know that the lies, the hypocrisy, the double standards, the lack of a functioning press, it's genuinely insane. It is genuinely it's characteristic of the Soviet Union, frankly. But look, here's the truth. We are thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people are coming into this country unlawfully daily. Not thousands a day necessarily, but daily. We are told they are refugees and asylum seekers. They're not. We are told that any objection to this makes you a neo-Nazi or a fascist. Neither is even remotely true. These are almost all men, almost all coming from societies like Afghanistan, where they think of the female as absolute trash to be used and abused at will by them. They come here, they see our females, they try to use and abuse them and treat them like trash. We have seen it for decades. We have seen it here in the UK. We have seen it all over Europe. We've had every warning that this was going to happen. And yet it continues. But I said we're seeing a glimpse of the future, and we are. This will continue because who's going to stop it? You're going to have fractured, broken, physically broken, ghettoized communities who will be at each other's throats. Expect, for a time, so a sort of Northern Ireland-like situation of that sort of division. Intense security, intense. If you think of free speech is gone now, wait till you see what's coming. And all the while we have this anti-white rhetoric turning the races against each other. A divided, violent, broken society is being deliberately engineered by the powerful and the press. It's coming, but something else is coming as well. Those of us who speak the truth are coming as well. And in the end, it is those who speak the truth that will win. Mark my words, will win.